Waka, 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 waka. Hey guys, good morning. James True here. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Friday. Wow, I look rough. I've been making my Wolfman Jack voice. Not by choice, but I've been building a Wolfman Jack. This is Wolfman Jack. So yeah, I'm close. It's already normal. Got some throat chakra stuff going on. Haven't really, don't really feel fully back into it. I've been able to shitpost though. That's been fun. Haven't been on social media in a while, but when you're just kind of laid up, trying to take it easy, shitposting is good for the soul. What can I say? I don't even think it's shitposting, but it's important that I remember where. Hey, Nusik Chef's in the house. Everybody's in the house. Ginger, great to see you. Wild Shadow, Teresa, Zugi, my man B. There's more, I'm sure, but that's all I see right now. But yeah, welcome to James True Live. Welcome to Friday. Hope you guys are doing well. Hello, Alexander. Grand rising to you. Good morning to you all. Eric C, welcome. One thing that I needed through this time of posting on social media, I even activated my Facebook account, which is like, well, what are you doing there? Right? I actually never had a problem with Facebook. I wasn't using Facebook, and then one of our watchers said that we were married, and Facebook said, okay. They were just like, yeah, you guys are married now. And I was mad at Facebook for doing that, and so I deleted my account because I'm irrational child sometimes. Lost a lot of old art pictures that were only on Facebook. A lot of the dragons that I've made, things like that. But I appreciate the opportunity to have to make more. If you don't know this, if you know an artist who has their house, you go to their house. What you want to see for a really highly productive artist is someone that actually doesn't have a lot of stuff on their walls. I think this is really the ultimate way of making you make more, for what it's worth. But I'm getting off track. What I want to talk about is that it's really difficult to compassionate where the environment is versus where you are. You tend to think that everyone in the environment is kind of in the same mindset. Certainly we notice there's some differences, and but understanding just how different it is isn't always comfortable. And so we struggle with this. Polyvegas, good to see you. Ooh, farce book. How did you delete it? I thought it was impossible. No, it's not. It's not impossible. I thought it was pretty easy. I don't remember how I did it. I had to Google how do I delete my Facebook account is probably how I did it. Yeah, I've actually had people say, look at you, Katem. Like, what are you doing on Facebook? You shouldn't be here. You belong on YouTube. And I first of all, that's a compliment. Thank you. I appreciate the love. Second of all, though, if I don't pop in sometimes and do this, I lose touch with where the Karman line is. There's a Karman line where everyone below that line has a certain mindset, and everyone above that line has a different mindset, and it's easy to forget where that is. I've learned so much about Pharmakós because I've been back on social media. I posted some things, said some things about Jesus, and I'm really surprised how many people who say that they read the Bible religiously accuse me of not reading the Bible, say that in the Bible it says that the Jews crucified Jesus. I'm amazed by this. I mean, truly, I'm amazed. This is some of the most stark followers of the Bible insist that this is how it happened. And I want to compassionate them because I don't really give a shit. Like if you think one thing and I think another thing about the Bible, I seriously don't. I'm not the kind that's like, oh, you have to fucking agree so I can go to heaven. I don't feel that way. But I have studied maybe too much of Rome, and this is what I mean. It's the problem I have. I don't know of any historical context where the Jews were crucifying people. If you were a rebel group, and the Jews were a group, you could even say they still are, you don't have the luxury of crucifying someone. You don't control a city with enough stability where you're going to the efforts of long killing someone, like over 8 to 32 hours of just agonizing, gruesome hanging from a pole. It's not death, it's deterrence. And Rome invented crucifixion. Roughly 100,000, 150,000 people were crucified in Rome. That's not a lot. James, what do you mean? No, it's not a lot. Hear me out. Guys, the amount of people that were crucified versus the amount of people that were just killed, murdered, beaten, thrown in prison is vastly different. I would say it's in the millions for how many people Romans, the Roman culture or the Roman civilization, whatever we want to call it, actually punished just specifically with crucifixion is a very tiny number. Maybe not a tiny number because I hear 100,000 is a lot, but it's much smaller than just the amount of just brutality. Most of the time, the brutality wasn't even recorded. We actually have a special look into how this happened. And I already got a super chat. Thank you. And thank you, Alexander. And this special look is only because we happen to record these specific instances of crucifixion. Crucifixion is a very specific punishment by Rome meant for a very specific kind of criminal. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's because it's expensive. It's expensive to crucify someone. And I don't just mean the cost benefit, and you're like, oh, well, we got to find some vinegar and we got to fucking hold it on their lips. No, none of that happened. This is like a love ritual if you read in the Bible because they're constantly giving him witness. The ultimate form of crucifixion would be to be placed up there and just ignored. And if you're going to ignore someone, you're going to need a lot of territory to ensure that someone's being ignored. You're going to have a lot of people that come at night. That's like, Frank, what are you doing up there? And Frank's like, I will promise you, I will give you a hand job every day if you get me off the cross. And all kinds of weird deals are made. This is probably the invention of bondsmen. But so many, I would say most Christian Americans, at least on social media, are insisting it was the Jews that killed Christ. And I think the confusion comes in because quite frankly, because they want the confusion there. There's an interesting idea where people associate with Rome, even though maybe they never lived there, although they could have. But more importantly, the deeper association is the idea that we have a scapegoat, that we have someone that we can blame. If you listen to the literal arguments, and you can watch on Twitter if you want, I've had this discussion many, many, many times. But who actually put Jesus on the cross? And even though people will say the Jews crucified Jesus, when you ask them, well, but who physically put Christ on the cross, they will say Romans. Actually, most of them won't. They'll get mad and be like, you're fucking blah, 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 blah. But those who answer will actually say, well, it was the Romans, but the Jews made them do it. And my question is, well, if the Jews had that much power to influence the Roman government, why didn't they just tell them, hey guys, don't fucking invade us. Don't put down our revolts. Don't send Vespasian in to literally kick the shit out of all of us. Don't embarrass us by making Josephus come out and turn all his men in, create this weird suicide pact. And then he's the only one at the very end that's like, oh, I meant to kill myself. I just didn't get around to it. And you have these stories, but we still insist, no, it's the Jews. And I don't want to change these people. I'm thankful that I understand the Pharmakós. If you didn't see the last stream, it's this tendency for a state to utilize a ritual, someone that they can use as a scapegoat, and the scapegoat is there to cleanse the town. This is an ancient Greek medicinal ritual, a medicinal ritual. And you might be wondering, well, how could that be medicinal? It's just because you struggle to understand, just as I do, and compassionate what these people were like. Do you guys like my voice this way? It's like, hey there, baby. This is my scratchy voice. Where's the t-shirt from? This t-shirt is from the Parthenon in Nashville, Tennessee. I really recommend you go there. I really do. For the longest time, I was an elitist, and I insisted that the only way to experience that is to go to Greece. But if you go to Greece, there is no Parthenon. There's some fucking columns and a terrorist fence and a gift shop. If you go to Nashville, you can actually walk through the Parthenon and listen to the sound of the echoes of the chamber just resonating itself. You're looking up at the actual replica to scale of every single thing in that structure. And I think this brings you closer to what it was like than going to Greece. I still think you should go to Greece, go through the whole, let's find a plane or let's sail, honey, or whatever it is you're going to get there. Put all that time in because you're going to spend your time on something. So going to Greece is definitely worth it. But ultimately, I think after you go to Greece, I think you should go check out the Parthenon. So yeah, I bought this shirt because I was just really, really pleased with the fact that a bunch of rich people a long time ago said, hey, let's build a replica of the Parthenon. When I first read about that, I thought it was the most redneck thing I'd ever heard. And it just shows you how close-minded even yours truly is. Not that I was insisting that I'm super open-minded, but some of you guys have that impression that I'm magnanimously more open-minded than others. And yeah, we'll put the kibosh in that. Who put the bosh in the kibosh? She-yosh. Who put the bang in the lame and ding dong, right? Rome was all around the Mediterranean, and locals were managing every comptoir Romaine. I will definitely go visit. Yes, Ginger, go visit. In fact, I think we'll probably do another meetup there. I'd love to do a meetup there. I think it'd be great. It's basically free. I mean, buy a ticket. Just buy a ticket. But I think it's actually, there's times when it's like free. You go in there. It's not that much. I just wanted to buy a ticket because I'm just like, guys, way to go. You got a parking lot. You're right in the middle of downtown Nashville. It's surrounded by beautiful gardens. So I could see us meeting there, checking out the Parthenon, going out to the gardens, and having a cool little discussion, and no one would stop us. We wouldn't need to reserve or anything. Some of you guys would be like, let's take off our clothes. And we'd be like, okay, look. All right, let's take off our clothes, but guys, we're gonna have to go now. They're sending it away, and that's what happens usually at every meet. 369 was no exception, or was it? Or was it? Only one of you will not know. You know who I'm talking to. I don't know who I was talking to just then. So. Why do we need to insist that it was the Jews that killed that killed Jesus? And I think it's because it makes us feel better. It makes us feel better. We get to pretend that Jesus was a Christian, not a Jew, which is funny. We get to basically place all the problems that we have in the world on top of these big-nosed Pharmakós. I don't say big nose as a joke. If you watch the last stream, the figures that were made for this, they usually had some grotesque noses, and I think that this is part of the medicine of all this. In fact, if you look at the symbology of a big nose, it would be one who is able to detect lies and deceit. One who plays in or drinks in deceit would be looking at that in the same way. In other words, if you know that someone in the room can detect lies, maybe the only defense you have is to call them a liar. It's just a simple immune response to that. You're not comfortable with that situation around you. But the pushback has been crucial. It reminds me of why my numbers are where they are, that it has nothing to do with how charming I am or not. It's actually more about that the content that I bring up is not necessarily inside that thermocline that makes for everyone to come on board and watch. And I appreciate this way. Speaking of that, though, we're running out of airship. The airship people are dropping, and I don't know if in April we're going to be able to keep doing this. So I think maybe tax season, who knows, different things. But if you haven't joined Patreon and you want to join just for a few months, if you join for a few months, you should feel really good for a year. Seriously. And if you were to do that now, in other words, give me a pledge for April, it would help us keep that minimum. We've been producing other videos on the side. A wonderful friend of the show, Jake Kassar. I'm sorry, it's probably just Kasser. I need to ask him how he pronounces that. But he's been making these shorts for us. It's been just really beautiful. I really want to support his work. And because he's making videos for us, I'd like to just throw him a little shake. And I could do that if we just have our minimum met. So if you haven't joined Patreon, sorry to make a commercial right now, but this is my show, guys. I need you to do it because we're a little bit down. So if you could join Patreon, it's a great time to do that. I'd appreciate it, and we can keep going full tilt. I know I have been out of the chair for a while. Went on the 369 day, and now I'm sort of nursing this cold. But if you've noticed, I work all the time. I'm super into producing content for you. And the only thing that would stop that is if we lose that number, that minimum threshold we need. So please consider joining Patreon. If I haven't lost you yet, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the show. Khazar is in the Khazar Jews. That's funny. 87 Solar Sky. I will have to look into that. Maybe that's why Jake did that. I don't think so. Jake actually does some really good music. He's very talented with AI. Quite frankly, I told him, hey man, you're never going to be able to fix the audio in this, in these certain videos, because he was going through my older stuff and he was just like, watch this, dude, hold my beer. And I'm holding his beer. That dude's been able to do some amazing stuff, so hats off to him. Thank you, Stretch. Yes, the link's right there to join Patreon. You also get access to Airship, all our after show meetings. We have an Airship today after show. I think it's going to be kind of heated, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm in the most rational state right now, so if you're looking for some eye candy, it'd be a good time to go. Today's Patreon is free, though. I probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, today's Airship is free, though. I probably shouldn't have done that because we've sort of gone down in numbers. But thank you so much, Droopy Eyes, for the $20. Thank you, James, says Droopy Eyes. Thank you, Droopy Eyes. Appreciate that. So yeah, you could be invited to Airship. You can come check those out. You can watch the old recordings. A lot of cool stuff happening in the chat. You can join Patreon for free, so I don't want to hear your excuse about, well, James, I didn't know that things changed because I'm not on Patreon. It's like, well, I don't know a way of communicating with you efficiently if you're not on Patreon. If I was to email every single person every change that I made, you guys would have to leave because of spam. You'd be like, why are you spamming me? Keep in mind, we have people that complain when I change the thumbnail or I change the title after the show is posted. So it's a very, very strict line of sight here that we have. And if I don't have enough supporters, there's really no business. I'll get on with this. I'll get on with this. I do not want to change the vernacular of where American, maybe Christian, maybe quasi-Christian, because really, if you're actually saying that the Jews did it, even though Matthew 24, is it 27? Someone correct me. But even though, I mean, and that's just one place, but even though in the Bible, it talks about the Roman soldiers and all the other stuff. And some of you are going on some weird trips with the purple eye, and hey man, I'm not here to stop you. But really, if you really want to look at the fact, if only 100,000 people are being crucified, it really does back up this idea that it's not just my idea, but the crucifixion was a very special, a very expensive kind of punishment that was done specifically for one crime, and that was sedition. If you check the stories of Matthew, we've covered this on the show. It's not just Matthew, but if you check the Jesus coming into Jerusalem, he is actually sends two of his disciples that are known kind of bad guys, like Muscle. He sends his two muscles to go steal a donkey. It's actually two donkeys. We won't get into that now. But he goes to steal a donkey and he tells them, make sure that they know it is for the King of the Jews or a Lord or Savior or something like that. This is him declaring sedition. A lot of people, this is my thought. This is no one else's thought. I mean, someone else could share it. I'm just saying that I'm not telling you that you're going to be able to find what I'm telling you unless you watch my work. I believe that Jesus was addicted to the near-death experience. I believe he was an adrenaline junkie. I mean this in a respectful way. I think he found the magic of John the Baptist, who was willing to drown him, and he said, I want more. I want to go deeper. And he felt that vitriol itself was the way to the truth. Jesus was not alone in this, though, because every saint in that time we venerated because of their ability to torture themselves. You can look it up. There's a giant list. This list goes through all the different tortures these saints did to themselves, and Jesus was just following in that light. One thing Jesus did they didn't was he just out tortured himself. He found the worst ways to go. So declaring sedition was very important. Turning over the money changers in the temple was very important because he was trying to get the attention of Rome. I think what throws people off is the parable. A lot of people don't understand that the Bible's written in typology. Looking at you, Marty Leeds, I think you're the only person out there that's saying the Bible alone has the symbolism, but like every single thing that's ever been written in that time required typology simply to propagate it. You weren't speaking to one consciousness. You were trying to hit a harmonic where like 7 different layers of people were listening to the same story. This truly is at the heart of what a fable is or what a fairy tale is. So you're looking for that resonant where you hit every note. And the idea of Pilate washing his own hands really is not an absolution, meaning that Rome didn't commit the crime. It is the absolution that the Christian reader believes that Rome didn't commit the crime, and that this is just simply what Josephus was doing. Keep in mind, Vespasian had Josephus by the neck, was like, why would I not kill you? And Josephus said, because I'll suck your dick, honestly. I'll write whatever story you want. I will create a new religion that will control the Jews. This is probably what he was saying. Hey man, I'm considered the leader. First of all, Josephus played himself off as the leader of the Jewish revolt until he was caught. And then he instantly said, hey man, I don't even like those guys. I just happen to know their history and all their language, and people just happen to give me a lot of money because I inherited a bunch of stuff, but I'm not one of them. What does that sound like? And so Vespasian spared Josephus precisely because Josephus was willing to write down some history to give him some insight into political ideology. The same thing Michael Aquino did. Vespasian probably had some big ass eyebrows. He probably did. That's probably what happened. Who's the Whitebear? I'm hoping we'll get to that, XKB. Appreciate you being patient. But also part of getting there is actually listening to this, because so much of what actually happened versus what we insist happened is just based on what makes us feel better. Which part of this actually makes us feel better? So we have these stories involved. I know many of, maybe some of you really, really, really need to blame the Jews for all of the military-industrial complex. Literally every single thing that the military has ever done, every single thing Raytheon has done, everything Boeing has done, everything that your forefathers and my forefathers have did, whether it be in Vietnam to Cambodia. There's literally 47 countries that we've done this to since World War II, where we've gone in and said, because we're trying to save people, we're going to have to kill a lot of you. And never has there been an act of war. And we're going to say that this is all because of a state, Israel, that didn't actually exist when we started doing this. And it's like, yeah, but the Jewish bankers. And it's like, yeah, we can blame Jewish bankers all we want. I hear that, but I need you to know how convenient that is. Because really what it means is that you just get to be as ignorant as you want, because you always get to blame the banker for it. I believe this is why we even started the whole idea of usury, of, hey, let's borrow money from you guys. Because quite frankly, we wanted to live on our bellies, because we wanted to lack the responsibility of having our own reputation. When we have our own reputation, we got to clean it off. We got to constantly wash it. We got to produce maintenance on it. This is quite different than living anonymously. If you live anonymously, your reputation is never a problem. You can hit reset. You have a brand new credit score every time. You get to piggy bank off the backs of others who are just naturally symbiotic, because you get to be a fresh new take every single time. And this is a crime in my book. It's something that's really been bothering me lately. It's something we'll talk about in Airship too. But it really does point back to the spirit of where our mentality is, how important it is for us to apply Pharmakós, to apply this kind of magic to what we do. So I don't think it's a flaw. I think it's a feature of the immune system to blame the Jews. And I think the idea that we're going to insist that they were the ones that crucified Jesus is just showing you that. That's all. Do you want to call them an accomplice to the crime? That's fine. But we still need to really look at the guy that actually put him on the cross. But we just do. We need to look at that and go, yeah, but you actually did that. See, this would be something that I would then be able to absolve my father. I would be able to say, well, my father didn't fuck with anyone who was innocent in Vietnam. It was the Jewish bankers who did that. And I love my father too much to do that. I respect his name too much to create lies for him. I want the truth to be known because I think that he could handle bearing the responsibility. If I had no respect for my father, if I thought my father was weak, I would want to cover up his sins. I would want to create an anonymous situation where I could walk into a confession booth, say what he did, but then no one would ever hear of it again. I like this Aquarian world where our sins are actually badges of honor, that we get to go around going, yeah, I fucking did that. And I went over to Vietnam and did all this. And here I am now asking you to burn your draft card. And I get that you're confused over why this is happening. And you're only confused because someone told you a long time ago that humans aren't supposed to change their mind. And the ones that are telling you not to change their mind are the same people that are telling you there's no such thing as reputation. And they're telling you that obedience is morality. And obedience is not morality. Obedience is regurgitation. Dogs don't exercise morality by regurgitating what it means to sit. That's not a moral decision. It's a regurgitated decision. I love dogs, and saying they regurgitate isn't that far off. Cats do it too. Looking at you, cats. You guys are always regurgitating stuff. I don't even know where you get it. I'm frankly profounded by it. The nose knows. Yes, it does, tornadoes. So that's why we call it nostralcism. It's because the nose knows. But XKB has been really patient. XKB really is like, dude, why don't you just fucking tell us who Whitebear is? He didn't say that, but I'm kind of speaking for them. And I just have to do this. Oh, good. I don't have to do it. I just have to do this. Hey, that must be what fixes it. I can't go full screen until I'm sharing. I'm talking to myself right now. But yeah, this is good to know. So, excuse me. My first cough. I think that's my first cough. Blame the Who's, man. Dr. Seuss. Oh, I'll have to look that up. That's cool. I thought giving all the name changes, we are all Jews. There you go. There's one way around it. Oh my God, look at what Amel just said. The Jews want to be blamed for it all because the scapegoat is a powerful position. This is really right on. It really is the high ground. Especially when you notice that people are benefiting from the Pharmakós. You know what that makes you? It makes you the pharmacist. It makes you the pharmacosicist. Someone put that on a t-shirt. It makes you the pharmacosicist. And the pharmacosicist is the one that lives in the biggest house. It's just true. So Chief Whitebear, I love Amiraka. I love Turtle Island. I really do. And I wish that I could put more time into studying these things. Hurricane Helene rocked this area. I call this area Katua. Katua is an Indian word. It's not the only word. I just like it. But Katua, it really would be the entire southern arm of the Iroquois Confederacy, stretching from lower Kentucky all the way down to the tips of Florida. Maybe not all that region would be known as Katua. I think western North Carolina, what we call the southern Appalachian Mountains, this goes into Georgia itself. This area would be Katua, the very place where actually there's like 5 states that are intersecting type of there. That intersection really is at the heart of this land, this feature that I call Katua. There are many legends from this place, and we don't have enough of them, to be honest. There are many legends from this place. For the longest time, after the Civil War, there was arguments about what was the highest peak. Was it Clingman's Dome or was it Mount Mitchell? Mount Mitchell's a little bit east of Clingman's Dome. Both these are sort of technically in what we would call the Great Smoky Mountains, although I think Mount Mitchell might actually be outside that border, but it's basically the same mountains. It's basically the same land. And so Mount Mitchell was insisted this is the highest peak. And it was a man named Thomas Clingman who was like, I don't know if that's true. And he was a naturalist. And he really, really loved the Smoky Mountains. And he was the first white man to measure both mountains, or actually to measure Clingman's Dome, and actually proved to be taller. And so because of that, we tell ourselves that we've named this mountain after him. So for the longest time, since I'm going to say 1935, don't quote me on that, but since 1935, we've called this place, the highest mountain in the Smoky Mountains, we've called this place Clingman's Dome. This guy later moved to Asheville. I was in Asheville for about 2 decades. I was about a block or 2 away from Riverside Cemetery, one of the oldest cemeteries, probably the oldest cemetery in Asheville. And this guy's buried there. So I would sit with this guy sometimes. Just be like, who the fuck is Clingman? What are you doing, buddy? How you doing? Stuff like that. Beautiful cemetery. Beautiful image, but this was before I'd cracked open, so I really wasn't even ready to even look at the real Confederacy. But Clingman, we don't actually know. I think the extent of his involvement with the Native Americans of this area. In fact, I don't think that the standard Cherokee even know that. This is going to sound very, very sacrilegious, what I'm about to say, and I get it. This isn't for everyone. But I think it's I hate saying this. I think it's very difficult to even look at Amu-Rakan history by going to a modernized tribe. The American modernized, God, this is hard to say. These are the ancestors, the blood ancestors of the Cherokee that existed before. But let's keep in mind that the Cherokee said, this is actually not our original land. We settled here. Not only that, the Cherokee really were just the arm of the Iroquois. It was the white man that didn't notice that. So before the Trail of Tears, you had a conglomerate of Iroquois Confederacy living in this area. The Trail of Tears occurred. Many people ran, and when they ran into the Great Smoky Mountains. It wasn't the only place, but they ran into the Great Smoky Mountains. And they sought refuge with a man named Chief Whitebear. Chief Whitebear had a clan up on Smoky Mountains. It was very discreet. It took about 100 years before the history of, this is why it's interesting, for Whitebear to even be written down. The first known record of this Chief Whitebear came much later, in the early 1900s. And I think this is part of the blindness of what we see. No one knows what Chief Whitebear looked like. But one thing we know is that it's absolutely necessary that Chief Whitebear was obviously a red man. They just called him Whitebear for other reasons. And this is really the political mythology that we're forced to swallow all the time. We don't really know what happened. We do know this. 1/3 of the Cherokee was white people. It was white dudes that were like, the Civil War is fucking retarded. Or it was people that didn't even know there was a Civil War, quite frankly. That they came here, it was probably the colonists from Roanoke could have done this too. That were like, no one knows what happened to the people of Roanoke. And you're like, I think they live over there in that Indian village. It's like, don't you say that. They disappeared. It's like, they didn't disappear. They're right. Stop saying that. But they're right over there. Stop saying that. And we have all of this traces in the Sequoian language, the Cherokee language, Chief Sequoia, that the word structure, the fables, the stories, it's an intermix. And it's not just, it's Scottish Highlands. In fact, where I live now, believe it or not, a lot of Scottish Highlands came here and we're just like, we're Indians now. We're Indians. They formed their own clan because they already were a clan. They didn't need to join other tribes. Many did, though, and 1/3 of those people were white, which means that the idea that the Southern Confederacy was made up of a bunch of racists goes directly against the actual grain of historical fact that occurred. It just goes against that. There's a phrase that says we will form a more perfect union. And I think that this is a deep shadow, a deep footprint, that there was already a union here before. But that union that was here before did not have the same strength, did not have the same Wetiko to survive a military infiltration from three different countries, operating in tandem, pretending to be separate claws. The French-Indian War was just a massive propaganda where it was like, oh, you got to side with us, we're the French. And the English are like, you got to side with us, we're the English. And really the English and French were more aligned. But they were able to divide the Iroquois Confederacy directly in half. And that's how you skewer. That's how you cannibalize a culture. So where did this word Confederacy come from? Well, the Iroquois Confederacy. We got that word from the Iroquois, which means the racist rebel, Confederates were actually the Iroquois Confederacy. They're racist because they were integrated. And if you're integrated, you don't need to form a union, a more perfect union. You don't need to form an army. You sure as fuck don't need to pay homage to King George. The last thing you're going to do is vote for let's rename this land Carolina. So Sherman's March to the Sea was just a giant eraser. Just a giant eraser through the land of Qualla. Cherokee would call their capital Qualla. Sometimes they call it their home Qualla. Qualla is a beautiful word that's very similar to this, but just remove the I, add another L, Qualla. And that Qualla or Katua, all these places, if you look at this map, this is City of Boston's library map of Sherman's March to the Sea. These are the strongholds. These are the last remaining strongholds of the Iroquois Confederacy that, quite frankly, was dangerous in the South. It was much more dangerous. You know why it was much more dangerous? Because the North had already cracked the Iroquois Confederacy in half. They'd already broke the shell's back of Turtle Island. Yes, Imran, the true Confederacy. You got it, my friend. You got it right here, the true Confederacy of what this is. So when we try and look back at these things, you're going to make the same mistake I did as a youngling, and you're just going to look up your local tribe and you're going to ask them to tell you about the history, and they are never, ever going to mention Thomas Clingman. They're not going to mention any white people. And do you want to know why? God, I hate saying this. It's because of racism. We broke the shit out of these people. Quite frankly, we were just had far more capacity to be psychopathic. We had a stronger frontal lobe, in my opinion, which allowed us to use more placebo. It allowed us to lie more. Technically, we had more ego too, which is probably why we shame the ego. And when you obliterate a culture like that, the last thing they are ever going to want to do is talk about how integrated they were with you, to talk about how some of the white people were actually good guys. It's just too much to bear. I hope you can appreciate that. So when I was growing up, I was invested in the Chattanooga Intertribal Association, trying to save Moccasin Bend. Wrote the Constitution for the Chattanooga Intertribal Association. Let me correct that. I helped write the Constitution for the Chattanooga Intertribal Association, but I was studying government and law at the time. It was a perfect thing that I could do. I referenced all these other constitutions, especially Native American ones, and we drafted an 8-page constitution of the Chattanooga Intertribal Association. And do you know what I was told? I'm a white guy. I'm not allowed to do that. I was told that it was racist for me to even try. And I was told this by Indians, Native Americans, Native American grandchildren of those that came before. And I don't think this is the same spirit. And it's so shitty for me to say that. I get it. And feel free to hold me responsible for that. It's fine. I'm showing you my face because I believe that the reputation is worthy of this. I believe in this. I want to go down for saying this. It's fine. That racism is what's stopping us from seeing Turtle Island, and that racism is not necessarily just from the liberals. It's going to come from the Native Americans too. Guys, there's an organization called the Sioux Tribal Council, and I don't even know if you guys understand enough to know how ironic this is. The word Sioux means sneaky snake. Not exact translation, but to give you a close translation, it means sneaky snakes. And these are the ones that cannot be trusted. These are they're called Indians that are just fucking bad engines. And that's what the word Sioux means. So I hope you can see the irony that if you're trying to preserve your culture, why are you calling yourself the Sioux? Why are you not using your original Native American name? And there are many. I'm not going to list them all because the Sioux was not just one thing. Keep in mind, this is their derogatory term for a bunch of different groups that frankly we just didn't want to trust. We wanted to dismiss. I'm going to say this on air. I think I can say this now. This is not meant to be offensive, but I'd like for you to picture that there was a band of African Americans that call themselves the niggers, and that they have association that's dedicated to that. Now, some of you might be, that's cool as fuck because, you're staring in the face of the label, and I get all that too, but I don't think that you're seeing that kind of reverence. These people aren't like showing pride in that. It's more about the veneration. They're venerating the bad names. They're venerating the on your knees kind of platform. They're utilizing the very names that we gave them and building a structure around it, a longhouse around it. I think this is wrong. And I'll tell you why it's wrong. It's wrong because to pronounce some of these names is frankly hard. You've heard me try and tell you Koyoshalqui, Hutzlapotli, Tholok. I'm just trying to think of names I've been having trouble with lately. What is it? I was hoping it's not Mixcoatl. I've got that, but there's another one. All these names are difficult to say. They're so difficult to say that a long time ago, the descendants of these people said, you know what? We're just going to call ourselves the fucking Sioux. I think this is disrespectful. I'm not asking them to change, but I hope you can see my point that the people that we think would preserve the most culture are actually still lost in the trauma, and they don't even have a grip on it. So James, are you saying that you have it better? Yeah, I kind of am. I kind of am. I kind of am saying that I have a better take on it simply because I've been more open-minded to read more. It's not a coincidence this was called a confederacy. It's not a coincidence that before we called the South a confederacy, there was already confederacy. They were confederacy because the South was like, dude, we have a country. It's called Turtle Island. This shit's great. I've shown you other streams that go way more into this, so forgive me to kind of like doing that now. But in fact, if I could think of the stream, I'd link you right now because I think this is so important. You should really check this stuff out. But we don't actually know what Clingman did. We don't actually know just how influential, just how engine this fucker was. What we do know is that in the efforts of racism, this is true, the Cherokee people said that the thing that offends them the most is that we're calling this peak Clingman's Dome. And that if we were to preserve Cherokee country, we would need to rename this place to, I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, Kuwohi. 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 This word means place where mulberries grow. Place where mulberries grow. And so the Smoky Mountains, one of the most powerful Himalayan mountains in the world, think about it as the Everest of Turtle Island, is now being reduced to place where mulberries grow. And the people that are telling you that are Cherokee. They have more right. You have more torque listening to them than you do me. I'm a white dude. You have more torque listening to them. It's sacrilegious that I'm even making this stream. If you went to high school with me and you have the nerve to fucking stumble upon this channel, you get to go, wow, I didn't know that guy was a racist the whole time. And you're going to feel better. You're going to feel that you are respecting Indians more because you're rejecting this idea. And I'm talking to everyone else. I'm telling you that the secret underground clan known as Chief Whitebear was probably a white dude, probably a lit as fuck white dude who loved Turtle Island. And the reason why we didn't hear about it is because they didn't want anybody to know these people were hiding from the insanity that was running around them. So understanding the South is really looking at this in a completely different way, that it's actually the Northerners that had a problem with integration. It was the Northerners that utilized force to break the Turtles' back, and that all it took was sending Sherman in just to burn the shit out of everything. This is not someone that's trying to preserve a union. This is someone who's trying to burn the very last strongholds of anyone that's trying to cling on to an association with what was in the past. So am I suggesting you do not go along and we have to call Clingman's Dome? No. Am I suggesting you worship Clingman or whatever? No. I'm suggesting to you that it becomes very difficult to look at history literally. You're going to have to put on your compassion glasses and you're going to be able to see through these things. You're going to be able to see through them. If you'd like more information on this, I've linked my article in the description. It's on Substack. Forgive me for the article not having more substance. My calories are focused on other things in my body. I thought I could write this article, and it took me like a long time to even get like a few paragraphs out because it just kind of made me delirious. I can basically tweet right now. That's about my max. I'm kind of surprised I made it this long. I think I've only coughed once, although maybe twice. So thank you for your patience with all this, and I'd love to, maybe we'll even look at this more. The point is not to sell you that I know for a fact Clingman was Chief Whitebear. I do not know that for a fact. The idea is to sell you on the concept that this is very possible, that this is not only very possible, but it's actually a much more likely story to what was happening. And this is where it's time to level up, people. Lean in. This is where you level up. I want you to dismiss all of the shame around you being a racist. I want you to find that the fact you're listening to me proves your ancestors were up on Clingman's Dome. It was you who had integrated with this place. Where I live right now, in Banner Elk, this is one of the few towns that was like, fuck you both. We're not fighting for the Union. They were Confederate sympathizers, but they were pacifists. This was the Scottish Highlands. It still is. We have on Grandfather Mountain the Scottish Highlands games here. Why? Because that shit was happening then. Same tradition. One of the most magical mountains in the world is not the mountain I live on, but the mountain that I stare at when I go down. And it is Grandfather Mountain. And by the way, largest privately owned mountain in the South. Pretty cool. That the people that own it are like, yeah, we have enough money that we're fuck you guys. We don't want to give it to the park. We just want to keep it independent. It's like the last stronghold, I think, or one of the last strongholds for this place. Although Cherokee's doing pretty well. They got a casino now. Quala's got a casino. They're doing what they can to survive. But I think they might make it. I really do. I've long had a vision that if more people saw what I saw, that each of us would buy property and donate it to the Cherokee people, and that eventually would just grow the reservation. And this is problematic because there's going to be that racism there. A lot of us are going to look for purity because we lack our own ego, so we're going to look for a chief that has the right skin. And if you find the chief that has the right skin, it would be even more important to ignore the chief that doesn't. So Chief Whitebear, we don't have a picture of him. We don't have an image of him. It took 50 to 60 years before we even started to speak about him. And I think it's for the same kind of reason. So you're not going to be able to leverage a compassionary look into what was happening strictly by being obedient to your local tribesmen. You're going to have to look at American history through the cipher, and you're going to have to look at their Indian history through the cipher, and you're going to see what I see now. This is not a stretch. It would be a stretch if I was telling you for sure that Thomas Clingman was Chief Whitebear. That's not the goal of this. Some of you are literalists and you're going to have an issue. You're going to insist that's it and I'm wrong. Yeah, I have zero proof of this. I do know, though, that 1/3 of the Cherokee was white. I do know that at least 20% of the Seminole was black, that these people were simply integrated. They were integrated because it took more for a crown. If you're going to send soldiers over here, they're going to defect. Most of the people that were joining the Union in the North were simply doing it for shoes. They were leaving as soon as they had them. This is why most of the guns, up to 90% of the guns that were recovered on Gettysburg in the battlefield were still fucking loaded. And out of those, over half of them were only fired once. These are not people that are like, we have to fucking kill all the racists in the South. These are people that are like, oh, fuck, I got shoes. I can't leave yet. They drove me to this battle. I don't have a home yet. I don't know what the fuck. Now we got to kill each other. And this is really the truth. And the truth is always more shamed. It's always more shameful than we think. It always is. I want to remind you that 1 out of every 7 American heroes that we celebrate who fell in battle was killed by friendly fire. You're never going to find that on a tombstone. You're not going to go to Arlington Cemetery. That's funny. Arlington Cemetery and see a sign that says, hey, by the way, 1/7 of all the fucks that are under the ground right here were killed by another fuck in the ground over here. You're not going to see that sign. You're only going to hear it on James True Live. Why? Because I love us. I trust us. I have faith in us. I do not want an anonymous confession booth. I want you to wear your confessions as banners. These are badges of combat. They show that you made victory because you're willing to look at what your ancestors did in the past and see through it and say, I fucking see you. I fucking see you. And that's really all our ancestors want. They don't need you to like them. They don't need you to respect their decisions. They don't need you to compassionate them to where you're going to become something different. They just want you to see them. That's all it is. And right now we're surrounded by honestly, a lot of shitbag theories. Some of them are from people that live in England that are telling you, oh, well, this place, the arrowheads are a psyop and none of this was real. And it gags me with a fucking spoon. There's an old adage. But it gags me to listen to these people try and tell you that none of this history counted because the White House was always there and that all these buildings always existed when you have such a thick, deep moss of history buried in all these mounds that's telling you the truth. Even Joseph Smith has the legend of reading from the sacred tablet, and these sacred tablets were the Mississippian copper plates that were recovered from the mounds. So we were pulling history out of the mounds, keeping the things we want, throwing away the things that we didn't, and it literally built the history today, and that this is how all history is built. It's built on the shame of those who were afraid to see it as some other way. Remind you that pirates were the ones that were in boats mocking the settlers on the shore because they had a dress code, mocking the settlers on the shore that were forced to cut their hair because it may get too long, mocking the settlers on the shore that were afraid to leave their palisade because they were so terrified of living in nature. This is why the image of the pirate looks the way it does. Some of those pirates were on land. Some of you know the word buccaneer means pirate that got sick of being on the sea, and that some of those pirates were in fact Chief Whitebear. Some of those pirates were the Scottish Highlands that we have now. All of these things are telling you the truth, but it's going to be whispers, my friend. It's not going to be in a museum. It's not going to be at your local intertribal association. Those guys are really having trouble. They're desperate for calories. They're going to do things like, we're going to force the university to change the name because it sounds like an Indian name. And that's how they're burying culture. But they get props for doing it because they're sensitizing themselves to the racist culture that's around them. This is how we keep burying history. Don't bury history, my friends. It's there. It's alive. It's happening. Airship starts in 4 minutes. Join Patreon, could really use your help. It's a great opportunity. If you appreciate my streams, if you want to see more of this, imagine what this stream would have been like if I would have had a full bill of health, my friends. It would have been that much deeper. You know what you get here. You know what happens. Joseph Smith, there was a man. Yeah, you're fucking right. He was. And you know what? That dude was an Iroquois. He was an Iroquois. Wait till you find out Iroquois isn't even the right word. He was a Haudenosaunee. People of the Longhouse. You know what a turtle is? Do you know what a turtle is? It's a longhouse.